This is Ron Carter. Today, we're going to visit two picture postcard towns whose geography and history are so closely linked you could literally walk from one main street to the other in just a few minutes. So it just made sense that we talk with representatives from both of their historical groups to find out how these two towns ended up growing up together. So it's time to hit the pavement on Showreel. Only one town on planet Earth is named Zelienople, and there's a very good reason for that. And today, we're going to find out about this historic town and meet some of the people who manage the Zelienople Historical Society, which has two properties right here on Main Street. I am with Kathy Powell, who's the president of the Zelienople Historical Society. Kathy, thanks for joining us for Showreel.
You're welcome.
Now, how long have you been serving as the president of the Zelienople Historical Society?
I've been the president since 2015.
Okay, so a couple of years now?
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of challenges are you met with trying to maintain not one, but two museums for all intents and purposes?
Right. There's a lot of maintenance involved, a lot of fundraising to keep our buildings going. We're trying to work on grant writing, so many things.
What kind of fundraising activities are involved with supporting a historical society like this?
Well, we have events that we do every year. We have a Christmas home tour, which this year is going to be on December 1st.
Okay.
In September, we have what we just started last year that we call Wine Down Friday.
Wine Down Friday.
On September 7th.
I suspect there's some wine involved in that then.
There is. We'll have Masa Wine here.
Oh, Mazel Wine will be here.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And we will have entertainment here at the gazebo. It's in our backyard. We're very proud of this garden, these gardens.
Is this a new development with these gardens?
Yes, the gardens have been under construction for the last few years.
So this gazebo is new.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what prompted you to want to build a gazebo on the land where the property is?
We have a lot of Zaley's letters, and she talked about her gardens. So that really started the garden venture going.
Okay.
And reading the letters and basing the things that we have in the garden. Wasn't necessarily a gazebo here, but we want something to draw people in.
So you've got gardens now here, both at the Passavant House, which is where we are currently.
Right.
And you've got gardens at the Buell House as well.
We do.
And you've been working on both of those simultaneously.
Yes. It's been a big job. We have lots of wonderful volunteers.
Wow.
We have a garden committee that comes and weeds, and in fact, a lady was here this morning deadheading the roses.
Oh, looks fantastic.
And that's our newest addition, is the rose garden.
And where is the rose garden?
Right here.
Okay. Okay, I gotcha.
And
wonderful.
So those are all just planted this year, and we're hoping they're going to spread and become a beautiful rose garden. We have a fountain that was donated by Elmer Peffer in memory of his wife Jeannie.
Okay.
So
now, are some of the gardens things like, do you have historical records of what they might have planted back then, and you try to match that?
Right, we did.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Excellent. So what other activities happen here at the museum? I mean, do you have tours, I assume?
Yes, we do have tours. It's best to call ahead and make an appointment so that we have docents here, but we have tours of both houses and
Okay,
the
so what's
gardens.
the phone number if I want to make an appointment?
724-452-9457.
Okay, and do you have like a website or a Facebook page or anything like that?
Right now, we're redoing our website, so we're kind of in a flux with the website right now.
Okay.
But you could also email us at zillyhistory@zoominternet.net.
zillyhistory@zoominternet.net.
Right.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like a very exciting place to visit. If you're a history buff, come see us at the Buell House and the Passavant House as part of the Zelienople Historical Society. Thanks so much, Kathy.
Thank you.
This is Mary Cameron, who's a docent here at the Passavant Museum on Main Street in Zelienople. And Mary, thanks for being here for Showreel.
Sure.
Now, what can you tell me about the Passavant House? Why is this even a museum?
Well, the Passavant House was built and owned by Zaley and Philip Passavant.
Okay.
Now, Zaley, which was actually a nickname, but Zaley, was the daughter of Baron Detmar Bassey.
Right.
And Bassey was the one that purchased 10,000 acres of land in this area.
Right.
Sold 4,000 of them to Father Rapp for the Harmony.
Right.
But then founded and sited the town of Zelienople.
And of course, he named it after his daughter. At least the daughter's
He named
nickname.
it after his daughter, Zeli, and then Nople, which is from the Greek polis for city or town.
Great.
So Zelienople.
All right. So Zélie married into the Passavant family. Is that right?
Correct, and
Okay.
that was originally, they were originally from France, but they did meet in Germany,
Okay.
and they were married in 1807 in Europe. She and her intended were cajoled to come to America
They were
by her
cajoled.
father,
Okay.
because he had already come here
Right.
and started the town, and he went back to Europe to collect a few of his children. He had
All
been
right.
widowed
Okay.
in 1800. And that's when he came to America to make his fortune.
So Zélie and her husband's name was?
Philip.
Philip, and they came to Zelienople. They built this house.
They built this house. It's circa 1808, 1810. They actually arrived in the fall of 1807.
Okay.
They stayed at Mr. Bassey's home that he had built on the opposite banks of the creeks of the Connoquenessing,
Okay.
named Dassenheim.
Aha.
So they stayed there their first winter.
All right.
And then the first thing they built, Philip built a 2-story log structure right here on Main Street. It's actually right beside this house, basically where the gas station parking lot is.
I gotcha.
And the first floor was his store. So he
Okay.
opened the first general store in town.
Okay.
And it was established in 1807. And then once that was built, they lived upstairs. He was operating a store, and then they built this two over two brick Federal Georgian house,
Okay.
on brick house
Okay.
on Main Street.
All right. So if I am a history buff and I wanted to come and visit the Passavant house and learn all about the history of Zelienople and Zélie and Philip Passavant, what would I find here?
We have thousands of Zélie's original letters,
Thousands.
a couple thousand,
Wow.
within our archives.
That's still pretty impressive. I mean,
It's
that's a lot of
very
writing.
Impressive. It is a lot of writing. She required her daughters to write both French, German, and English,
Oh my goodness.
so that they would learn languages.
Fantastic.
such as that.
That's really amazing.
But anyway, in this house,
Mm-hmm.
we do have a lot of Passavant artifacts.
Okay.
Things that actually belong to the early family, because the descendants of Zélie and Philip
Mm-hmm.
were very good at realizing this was important history.
Sure.
They kept things, over the years, many of those things have come back to the house. One of the most recent, just this year,
Mm-hmm.
is the piano that was the 16th birthday present to Virginia,
Okay.
one of the daughters,
All right.
in 1834.
Wow.
Now, it was passed down through the Passavant family. It ended up in Connecticut. And just this year, they wanted to donate it back to the museum. And
Wonderful.
so it is now in our parlor.
Fantastic. Well, let's go take a look at this piano, and then we can learn a few other artifacts that we might find here at the Passavant house.
Okay. Many of our artifacts in the Passavant house are period
Okay.
to tell the story of a family that lived in here for 150 years through 3 generations.
So really, there have been 3 generations living in this specific structure all this time.
The last resident was Miss Emma Passavant. She never married. She was a granddaughter of Philip and Zélie,
Okay.
and she died in 1956.
Oh wow.
So the house was actually lived in by Passavants.
And this piano is the most recent acquisition,
It's the most
huh?
recent, just this year.
It's absolutely
Correct.
gorgeous.
The family was very cultured,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm sure they would have come into the parlor to play music, to entertain their guests.
Right.
This wooden flute belonged to Charles Sidney, who was the middle son
Right.
of the Passavants. Above the piano, we also have 3 portraits,
Mm-hmm.
the oldest daughter, Emma,
Okay.
Charles Sidney, and back here is William Alfred.
Fantastic. Well, it's absolutely a gorgeous museum. We have another museum to visit, which we're very excited about, the Buell House.
Correct.
So certainly encourage you to come back anytime and visit us here at the Passavant House or the Buell House as part of the Zelienople Historical Society. Thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you, Ron.
This is Jack McMichael, who's also a docent with the Zelienople Historical Society. And Jack, I understand that now we're visiting the Buell House, that we have some new gardens back here as well, but why is the Buell House part of the Zelienople Historical Society?
Well, Christian Buell was an early pioneer of Zelienople. He was a good friend of Detmar Bassi. In fact, Detmar Bassi invited him to come out to Zelienople. He was a trapper and a furrier in Germany, and he said, hey, I can do the same thing here. There's Connequenessing Creek's right in town.
Sure.
And he did, and he built a log cabin behind what is now St. Paul's Lutheran Church.
Okay.
For a year, trapped beavers, made beautiful men's top hats.
Oh, wow.
Sold them in Pittsburgh, made a fortune. He was already rich.
Excellent.
And after 1 year of living in that log cabin, he said, I got to get out of here. I need a house or I'm going to freeze to death. And as soon as Christian Buell saw this property, there's a little stream or a run that runs right through here. And he said, that's the water source for my property. I want this property. And so they dickered like good Germans do, and he got the price, and he immediately built this house, 3 stories high with a mansard roof and dormers, and it's 3 bricks thick. It's going to be warm in the winter and cool in the summer, plus cross ventilation, which was unheard of back then. And this was his home.
And then how long was this building in the family?
Until 1942.
Okay.
When all the Buells either died off or moved away, and it was sold to an antique dealer. And he came in here, and the first thing he saw was it was a fire trap.
Okay.
And so he built an extra room on the 2nd floor with a fire ladder to get out.
Okay.
And it was an antique dealership until probably, I'm saying, the early 80s. And then I really don't know what happened to it after the early 80s, but we had a donor bought the house in the early 90s and gave it to the Historical Society. And we turned it into not one museum, Ron, there's 2 museums.
2 museums within the Buell House.
Yeah, the Buell family is on the 1st and 3rd floor, and on the 2nd floor is a museum for Zelienople.
If I were a historian or a history buff and wanted to come and visit the Buell House, what would be some of the more intriguing artifacts I'd find here?
Well, we find the hats that Mr. Buell made and how he made his money. Also, how he made the hats. Have you ever heard the term mad as a hatter?
Yes.
Well, that came about because they used formaldehyde and arsenic in getting the pelts off the beavers.
Oh my goodness.
And many of the hatters did lose their mind after inhaling that for all these years.
Oh my.
We have the container which he used all his life, but it didn't affect him at all. He was lucky. He lucked out.
As far as we know.
Yeah. Well, he lived to be 88. He lived to be 88, which was unheard of back then. And his wife lived to be 90, which is even more.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And she was an early feminist. She took care of the business, and 11 kids, or 10 living kids, and 1 died. And yeah, so.
So 11 kids, and can you name all those kids for me?
Yes, I can, but due to time limitations here, I cordially invite everyone to come to the Buell House and see. They're all on the wall with a mini biography, and you can see for yourself and memorize them yourself.
Outstanding, outstanding. And I understand that the gardens that are in the back of the Buell House are relatively new as well?
Yes, relatively new. We have a wonderful garden committee, as you saw up at the Passavant House, and they work down here, and they're getting it back into the way it was when the Buells lived here.
So really, they're using historical records or to actually try to match the way it was?
Yes.
Well, it sounds very, very exciting. We couldn't be happier that we got a chance to talk with you about the Buell House and with Mary with the Passavant House. So if you are a fan of history, by all means, come visit us at the Zelienople Historical Society right on Main Street in Zelienople. Just about a mile from Zelienople's Main Street is a town that most people consider to be a sister borough called Harmony. In fact, Harmony itself doesn't just have one museum. The entire town has been declared a National Historical Landmark. So let's meet with folks who run Historic Harmony and the Harmony Museum. I am with Rodney Gash, who is the president of Historic Harmony right here in Harmony, Pennsylvania. Rod, thanks for being here for Show Reel.
Oh, thanks, Ron.
Well, this is a fantastic, not only the museum, but Harmony itself is just such a picturesque borough. And we know it's an historic district, but when was Historic Harmony first founded, and where did things go from there?
Historic Harmony was founded in December of 1943, so we're actually celebrating
Oh,
our
my
75th
goodness.
Birthday, our anniversary. And it was founded so that a nonprofit was formed so we could take possession of the Harmony Cemetery.
Okay, so you've been around for 75 years coming up in December.
Not me personally, but the organization
Yes,
has.
well done, well done. There's been really just a monumental effort to preserve not just one property, but several properties, and the entire town is a designated historic district, right?
That's right. It's a National Historic District. Unfortunately, some of this comes about when people experience a loss. So
Sure.
what happened, buildings were being torn down, old log cabins that were falling apart. So that brought about the National Historic District and preservation of building. So now in Harmony, if you want to do parts on many of your buildings, you have to get approval to make exterior changes so that we can maintain the historic nature and look of the town.
So when was the entire town declared a National Historical District?
In 1975, we got national recognition as a National Historic Landmark District.
Okay, fantastic. So, and from that point on, that's why you needed to have that level of control in order to preserve more of these properties, and for people who are building in this area to maintain some of those standards.
What's really neat too is you have an old building and you want to do some remodeling. Sometimes just a little tweaking of the type of windows you use can maintain the character and really give this the town the look. I have an interesting story. We had family visiting from California, and they're driving through, and the mom says, "I didn't know there were towns like this. I feel like I'm on the Universal back lot." So I said, "No, this is where we live."
That's true. That's true. I mean, it is so unusual when you come through town and you see all these log cabins and all these historic buildings, and so it's really just a slice of Americana, if you will, to go through a town like this.
One little line we like to say, we're just 30 minutes and 200 years from the big city.
Fantastic. So how long have you been with the Historic Harmony Group?
I've been on the board about 5 years and then president for the last year and a half.
I imagine it takes an awful lot of effort to maintain not just one museum, but multiple properties. So what does Historic Harmony do to help raise money, and what kind of projects do you have working?
We have a great base of volunteers that help us on many events. Like coming up, we have an antique gun show. There was a famous antique gun maker in the 1880s right here in Harmony, made these beautiful Pennsylvania rifles. We have an antique show coming up in September. Our big event is the second weekend in November, and that's our Christmas market. Where we have dozens of artisans set up, and German food and Glühwein, and it's a really great, fun event. And if you see me there, I'll have my lederhosen on.
That is worth the price of admission right there.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So if all these great events are going on, do you have some projects that you're working on, or any capital campaigns that you're raising money for?
We have a big thing right now to replace the windows in the museum building where we're standing now, and an adjacent building, both that date from the first part of the 1800s. Behind us here is the original Harmonious window from 1807.
Oh,
so
my
this
goodness.
is the window that the Harmonious built. And when the windows in the current windows were put in, those were tossed in whatever the dumpster was of the day.
Oh, of course they were. Oh, no.
And so we have windows now, they're not only deteriorating, but are not the original style. So we're in a campaign. We got a grant from state of Pennsylvania, a matching grant. So we're working to raise a total of $150,000 to replace the windows in one of our buildings, and then phase 2 will be replace them in the other building. But it'll really make a difference on how the building looks and have that original look.
Amazing. So if I were a history buff and I wanted to make an appointment to come visit the museum, or if I wanted to get information in general about Historic Harmony, where would I go to find that information?
Well, we have a website, historicharmony.org.
All right.
And then we have tours most every afternoon from Tuesdays through Sunday. So we're open over 300 days a year. So we're really the best, most active, successful museum in Butler County.
Well, it sounds terrific, Rod. It's a pleasure talking with you. We wish you the best, and we look forward to finding out more about the Historic Harmony and some of these properties from one of the administrators here, and we'll be back with them in just a moment. This is Kathy Luke, who's an administrator here at Historic Harmony. Kathy, thanks for being here for Show Reel.
I'm very happy to join you today.
Fantastic. Now, obviously Harmony and Zelienople are very close to each other geographically speaking, but they really are linked in many more ways than that. Isn't that the case?
Oh, yes, yes. In fact, from the very beginning, Detmer Massey purchased 10,000 acres in western Pennsylvania in 1802. In 1804, he sold about 5,000 of those to George Rapp and Associates.
Okay.
So they're linked that way. And actually, between the two towns is one street called Division Street.
And there's a reason for
East
that.
side is Harmony, the west side is Zelienople.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So Harmony came into being because of George Rapp.
George Rapp, who he and his followers had separated from the Lutheran Church in Germany, the area of Germany today. They came here seeking religious freedom. They were only here for 10 years, but during that time, they formed their Communal Harmony Society. They also adopted celibacy as a way of life, and they built 130 buildings, of which there are about 25 original buildings in and around town, and it's really what gives the town its character.
Interesting. So now they adopted the vow of celibacy after they arrived here.
Yes.
So there were kids in the community, right?
Right, right.
When they first
Children
arrived.
came here with them. Children were born here.
Okay.
In fact, even after they adopted celibacy, a few children were born. They also would take.
Scandal.
They would take in orphans and widows with children.
Okay.
And the last members of the Harmony Society had come in as children around the time of the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
When the Harmony Society dissolved in 1905.
So now, today, Historic Harmony is an entire historic district.
Yes.
And I'm sure it's a monumental effort just to maintain one property, but you have several, isn't that right?
Yes, we actually have 9 properties that we take care of.
9 properties that the Historic Harmony Group is responsible
Yeah.
for. Wow.
And it has grown over the years. That our first building we did not acquire until about 1975.
Okay.
This building wasn't until the 1980s.
Oh, okay.
Although it had been a museum since the 1950s, it was not owned by the
I
Historic
understand. Okay,
Society.
I understand. Great. So what are these properties and how do we find them?
Okay. Well, if you come to the center of Harmony, which is the square or the diamond they call it, the main museum building, which is what we're in, it was actually a warehouse for the Harmony Society.
Okay.
It sits on one corner. Diagonally across the square from us is today a bakery, which is another Harmony Society building. Sorry, not owned by us, but
Sure.
they really do set off the town. There's also some of the original homes, like for George Rapp, the leader of the Harmony Society. His home is right here on the square, as is his adopted son's home.
But these are homes that are still privately owned, or
Yeah,
are
most of these
you
privately
managing
owned.
these? Okay.
No, they are just privately owned.
But that's actually amazing into itself that these structures have survived all this time and they're still being
Right.
operated.
Yeah, and the Historic Society owns this building that we're in. Next to us, down Mercer Street, is what we call the Wagner House, and
Okay.
it was built as a duplex for 2 sisters of the Harmony Society
Oh,
and
my.
their families. And
Okay.
so both of those are part of the tour, actually, when you
Okay.
come to visit, as is the main museum building. We also own a Mennonite log house that's right about 2 buildings from the square. Another log house, which is our visitor information center.
That's the relatively new,
Right, the
new
new
log home, yes.
New one. It was just relocated here.
Okay.
Most recently located. There's also a Mennonite era log structure that was moved in the early 1990s and 2000s, reconstructed here. That is our weaver's cabin.
Okay.
And our volunteers, they do weaving there. They talk about it if you want to stop in. They also do teach little classes too.
Oh, fantastic.
We have our barn, which was built by the Harmony Society, and it's right across the Connequanessing Creek from the main town.
I understand that barn actually has some activities that go on there during the course of the year.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
We
you have
use it for
events there.
several of our events. Our Urban Garden Fair, which is another fundraiser, and our antique show. We also rent it out to the public. And our music
okay.
festival too. I don't want to forget that
Of
one.
course,
That was most
excellent.
Recently,
All right, so beyond the barn, we still have...
we have Wrap Seat, which is a little difficult to get to because it does require quite a climb.
Okay.
There are stairs going up a very steep hillside right across the Connoquenessing Creek from the main town.
Okay.
And it's just a stone carved seat where George Rapp would sit and meditate and pray and watch the people working in the fields below him. We also have our Mennonite meeting house, which
Okay.
was 1825. It was built by the Mennonites. They felt that the Harmony Society Church left behind here, which is now part of Grace Church, it's still here. They felt it was more too much like a regular church, so they built their own place of worship.
Now, they've got a cemetery around that meeting house too,
Yes,
right?
they do.
Okay.
And that one has headstones, whereas
Right.
the Harmony Society Cemetery, located on what's now Route 68,
Right.
does not have any headstones.
But there's another intriguing aspect of that is this mammoth door.
Well, it's a gate. It's a revolving stone gate.
Okay.
It weighs about a ton, and you can open it by pushing with one hand. Now, some people say one finger, but you have to have a pretty strong finger to do that. But you can do it with one hand, and it's completely revolving. It was to be symbolic of going from this state of existence to the next.
Well, truly amazing. I certainly couldn't congratulate you enough for you've been involved with the organization for quite a while, isn't that right?
Yeah, I've actually worked here for 22 years, and before that I was a board member, so at least
Amazing.
25 years or more.
Well, your dedication is to be congratulated. It's Historic Harmony. It's a great place to visit. You got the entire area as a National Historical District. We have all kinds of wonderful displays for you to come and visit and enjoy. HistoricHarmony.org is the website, is that
Yes.
right?
No, sorry, harmonymuseum.org.
HarmonyMuseum.org. Excellent. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again. Harmony and Zillionople each have rich, distinctive histories, and yet they're so closely intertwined. So if you're a history buff, I certainly couldn't recommend more that you visit with the good folks at Historic Harmony or the Zillionople Historical Society. And we'll see you next time on Showreel. If you would like to find out more about arts and culture in Butler County, PA, be sure to visit the online calendar on the website of the Butler County Tourism and Convention Bureau.